Welcome to the Network Marketing Made Simple podcast. I am your host, Scott Aaron, and each and every week I'm going to come to you with short, simple, and powerful tactics of how you can grow your network marketing business, brand, bank account, and impact on those around you. And just remember, network marketing is not easy, but it can be made easy with simple steps to create the success that you truly deserve. Welcome to episode 134 of the Network Marketing Made Simple podcast. And if you are a new listener, then welcome. And if you are a returning listener, then welcome back. And as always, if you are a seasoned or new network marketer and still solely building your business through the means of Facebook and Instagram and not yet harnessing the power and potential that LinkedIn could have on your business, bank account, and impact, then head over to my website, www.scottaaron.net, where you can schedule a free 15-minute call with me so I can learn more about you, your business, what you're struggling with, and how we could potentially work together. So I love LinkedIn for many reasons, and LinkedIn actually brought me together with this guest that I have for you guys today. And I feel what him and his dad are doing with the human connection aspect of networking in general, I think is brilliant. I think it's genius, and I think it's going to change so many lives. And I think that's why him and I connected so well, because we're both human connectors and we both want to impact other people in the most genuine and authentic way. But before we get into today's episode, a little bit about today's guest. He is the CEO and co-founder of Contact Mapping. He recognized an opportunity to take the principles of contact mapping pioneered by his father and infused it with technology to make it easy for people of any industry, no matter what you're doing, to achieve greater success and connection in their lives. Prior to Contact Mapping, he spent 7 years at Rackspace, where he was most recently Senior Director of International Finance. He led the finance function for all of Rackspace's operations outside the US. During his 7 years there, he worked in the US, UK, Australia, and Switzerland, so he did do some traveling. He earned his Chartered Financial Analyst designation while working as an Equity Analyst for Southern Texas Money Management. He graduated Summa Cum Laude from Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas. He is a father and loving husband. And Adrian Chenault, welcome to today's episode.
Hey, Scott, thank you so much for having me today. It's great to be with you.
Absolutely, brother. So there's so much that we're going to need to talk about today, but obviously before we get into the contact mapping aspect, let's talk about obviously influences in your life and seeing what your father was doing for a number of years and you were going on your own path. Where did those paths intersect where you said, you know what, I love what I'm doing, but I see what my dad is doing and I know some things that maybe he doesn't, and we can do some more stuff together. So what did that whole process look like, and how long did it actually take to get there?
Yeah. I'll try to cover that without taking you through a 10-hour history of my life. But I grew up around a father who was and especially has become an extremely successful entrepreneur and networker in the network marketing profession primarily, but had a lot of success through an entire career in sales. And I watched the way that he did things. My folks divorced when I was in first or second grade. And so I was, spending half my time with my dad, watching him conduct himself and build his business. And he really did a great thing in his desire to instill an entrepreneurial spirit into us kids. And so, I was telling a friend yesterday, I think I read Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was like 11 years old. Like, he was pouring this stuff on us probably before we could really grasp it, but I think it got into my DNA, and I'm really grateful for that. But I was the oldest son of, a dad who had accomplished a lot, but, and who also was in a network marketing profession, which is incredible. And I didn't even appreciate how incredible it was, even though I should have had every reason in the world to understand until much later. But, you know, for me, I was very, on one hand, I was very achievement oriented, and I wanted to achieve in the eyes of the world. And so being a network marketer, just, I think my ego wouldn't let me do it. And I think the other thing is I felt a need to go and kind of prove myself on my own. I didn't want to just follow in my dad's footsteps. And so went to college, did very well in college, studied finance, spent a couple of years as an investment analyst, and then spent 7 years at a company called Rackspace that is an incredible technology company that was growing really fast. And it was really through my years at Rackspace that I think I realized some of the seeds that my dad had planted that paid off. Because what happened was, I came into, you know, I was in the finance group. I was amongst incredibly smart, incredibly hardworking people. And so, you know, I think I was plenty smart and I worked plenty hard, but I wasn't the hardest worker. I wasn't the smartest person in the room. Like I was in that pack. And yet I rose through the ranks really quickly. And I think the hallmark of why that happened is because I had it instilled in me as a value that relationships were what make things happen. And so I was exceptionally strong at getting out from behind my desk and walking across the building to go and, you know, talk to a sales director in person and help him figure out what he needs to get done, or help her figure out how to close her deal. And instead of being the person that hides behind the spreadsheet, I was out there. And so that was my experience. And as I kind of climbed the ranks through that company, I just started to realize that I was making a lot of money. I was, you know, especially at the end of that, I was earning a really good salary, but I was really owned by my job, and it was a 24/7 job. And I just started realizing that while I had a path to a lot of financial success, the path that I was on was not really pointing in a direction that was ever going to give me the time freedom and the freedom to invest in my family that I needed. And so I had to take a pretty tough step back and think about what my wife and I and our family's priorities were. And it was at that time that I think I had this kind of moment of epiphany, I guess you could say, where I started to reflect on, you know, wow, you know, my dad not only makes a lot of money, but has this incredible lifestyle and a huge amount of control over his time. And, you know, maybe I need to re-examine my assumptions about whether that's something that would be attractive to me or not. And so it was really at that time and through this exploration that the idea for us to start working together and a re-examination of network marketing as a profession, all those things kind of came together at the same time about 3 years ago.
So I'm a big believer that our time is the most valuable commodity we all have. But also it's something that we have to earn. You know, people say time freedom, but they don't realize that you saw this firsthand with your father, that you have to put in the time, the energy, and the effort of being in the trenches, of building that business, building that empire to earn the time freedom at the end. So,
Correct.
So what's been most impactful for you in the sense that, you know, you were successful, you wanted better work-life balance, you wanted more time freedom, you wanted to spend more time with your wife and your kids. What's been the greatest learning experience since getting into the trenches with your father that you can now look back on and you can say, you know what? I didn't realize how important that was, but you understand that it is now.
Yeah. And you embedded a really powerful statement in there, Scott, which is, you know, anytime that somebody tells you network marketing is going to be easy and you're going to have all this time freedom up front and all of that sort of thing, it's very rare that you get that right away. You have to pour your whole self into getting to that point where you've got that snowball rolling and it's now taken on a life of its own, and it's going to take a lot of effort, but it's going to be worth it. And I think that's really the takeaway that I had, is that looking back on it, I was on the track to become the CFO of a publicly traded company. And what that looked like was, you know, truly 24/7 work, being on the road all the time, insane pressure, all those sort of things. And it was really retirement was the only point at which that was where I was going to get that lifestyle that I was looking for from a time perspective. And I have 3 young kids. That just wasn't, I just wasn't willing to make that trade. I was going to lose their whole childhood before I would get to that point. And so I just didn't want to do that. And so I think in retrospect, really having the foresight to go, okay, let's play this out. Like, let's say I achieve all my dreams. Does the life that I have at the end of that journey, is that a life that I want? And that was really the moment where I realized, like, like, even if I were selected to be CFO of this company, like, I don't want to be a public company CFO. That's not what I want for my life. And I had to realign myself to a career path where even in the career itself, that when I achieved success, that it was going to give me the lifestyle and the kind of life that I wanted to have, and not that I was just going to become more and more sort of a slave to it, even as I made more money.
I know this is a loaded question, but it sometimes needs to be asked because I think the listeners need to hear this. Why do you feel now, after your years of working for someone else and now working for yourself, why are a lot of entrepreneurs unsuccessful?
That is a loaded question. So I think that, number one, the odds are stacked against you. Like, let's be really honest about it, right? It is really, really difficult to create something from nothing. So that's part one, is it's just, there's an inherent difficulty, and you can obviously, try to make smarter bets that are maybe more stacked in your favor. And I'm talking more traditional entrepreneurism than network marketing in particular. But I think some of these principles apply in both places, but it's a very difficult thing. I think the other thing that is something that I constantly have to remember and fight myself out of, and I'm used to it now, but I ran a huge organization. I had a huge team working for me at this previous company. And like, if I had a bad day and I effectively took a day off, I didn't really get anything done that day, even though I was in the office. A lot of stuff still happened. When you're an entrepreneur, especially in those early days, like, if you phone it in that day, you went backwards because nothing happened and your competition got another step forward. Like, that's just the reality of it. And so I think you really have to gut check yourself that it is like, I don't want to BS anybody. Like, being an entrepreneur is a lot of work. Being a network marketer is a lot of work at the beginning, but the payoff is there. And so you got to come into it going, I'm hungry to work, and I want the set of odds, and I want the opportunity that gives me this long-term outcome that I'm looking for, but I'm willing to work my tail off for it in the short term. If you want to have big results, that's what it takes. And the beautiful thing about network marketing is that you can take it at whatever speed you want, right? You can take it at, I've only got 5 hours a week to give this right now. I've got a full-time job and kids and whatever. And so that's great. You can build momentum in a network marketing business with only 5 hours a week. You just have to make those 5 hours a week really strong, really productive, and truly commit to being a professional in order to get the results, is what I've seen.
So obviously, no matter what the vehicle, entrepreneurship or network marketing or whatever it is, the payoff is always at the end. And I tell people all the time, even the way that I describe LinkedIn, and the way that I tell people, LinkedIn is like a 401k, and it's a retirement vehicle. And if you make those daily, weekly, monthly deposits with the compounded interest over time, you can create whatever wealth you want to create. But I think we live in this instantaneous world where people are looking to hit it rich right away. They're looking to hit it big. They're looking to strike oil. They're looking to get that scratch off at the gas station and get $1,000 a week for life. That's just not the reality of the situation. You have to work your ass off to really create the life that you deserve. And you and I are both fathers, and obviously we want to be representative of what is possible in life and entrepreneurship for our kids. And I think that's really important. I'm a 4th generation entrepreneur myself, and I watched my father as an entrepreneur. You've watched your father as an entrepreneur. And entrepreneurship, yes, it's the same as it's always been, but it obviously morphs into different things because there's different ways of doing it. But I will say this. One of the coolest things about entrepreneurship right now we're in 2020 and beyond is this. The one aspect of networking and the one aspect of entrepreneurship that is circling back around, that has kind of been pushed to the side for the last 6 or 7 years, is human connection. Everyone has spent the greater portion of the last decade trying to quote unquote automate everything, have funnels for this and lead pages for that, and remove the most important aspect of the equation out, which is the individual, the human being that's connecting with the other person. And this is where I want to talk about contact mapping. And obviously this is something that your father was developing. So let's dive into that first. Let's talk about the importance of human connection, number one. And number two, how did that lead to what you and your dad are doing now?
Yeah, awesome. And I love what you just said. And it's so true. And it's just crazy when we stop and think about where we have been and the influencer economy and all this stuff that I think it's all kind of coming to light, that it was just like this thin veneer of something that looks really good and there's nothing behind it. And I think we are in this incredible place right now as we come into this new decade of people waking up to the fact that human beings and human connections are the one thing that cannot be automated, that should not be automated. And it is the one truly sustainable competitive advantage for anyone who is an entrepreneur who's trying to build a successful business, because we are, as human beings, hardwired to crave that human connection. And those who are successful in creating it and offering it to others will win. And a computer that's doing AI is not going to take that away from you. And I think that's a really important insight for us to realize. And so where we started from with this idea of contact mapping, as we took it from a philosophy into being something that we wanted to really turn into a mission as a company, is that we see all of the trends happening in the world today, that people are, this gig economy is a huge deal, right? There's so many people in the American economy who are working 2, 3, 4, 5 little gigs to piece together their income, and they're bouncing from company to company, with an average tenure of less than 2 years, and they're changing career fields multiple times. And so whereas there used to be a certain constancy, I think, of our connections over time, that's not the case anymore. And your connections, your relationships are your most valuable asset. I am 100% convinced of it. And yet I think we all fall into this trap of treating them like they're disposable, treating it like it's not an important asset. And so what we've really set out to do is to give people this incredible, almost miraculous experience of truly tapping into the value that they can derive from their contacts, and that they can give to their community and their contacts, and create the sort of rising tide lift all boats sort of scenario. And so I just see an incredible opportunity to do that. And I think we're really just at the beginning of this resurgence in recognizing how important that really is.
So let's talk about, the future of not just context mapping, but the future of human connection and where it's actually going. Because people talk about AI and all these other things. And you and I both know that I'm one of those big believers that the person that takes the hardest road possible is going to create the easiest and most abundant life ever. And those that take the easy road end up living and creating a hard life. So let's talk about staying in the trenches of really focusing on the human connection aspect of business. How impactful is it, and can it be, for that network marketer, that entrepreneur, that online business coach to really focus? Yes, you have to make yourself omnipresent. Yes, you need to have some opt-ins and lead pages and funnels and all that stuff. But how important and impactful is it going to be for that person to still make themselves readily available to talk to another human being on the phone, Skype, Zoom, or WhatsApp? How important is that?
You just can't believe it. And let me illustrate it with a story. So this week, a young man named Daniel came into our life. Daniel, I live in Colorado. Daniel lives in New Mexico. And the crazy long story short, for a while, our family owned a coffee shop. And my dad has this huge business library of books. And so he put the library of books at the coffee shop for people to read. But he had somebody go through and write on the front page of the book, this book was stolen from Tom Chenault. So if anybody lifted the book, it was permanently branded as you stole this book from Tom Chenault's coffee shop. And so long story short, this guy, Daniel, in New Mexico, goes to a used bookshop, picks up a copy of a book and buys it. And when he goes home, he discovers this inscription on the inside of the book saying this book was stolen from Tom Chenault. And gets curious, looks him up online, and my dad receives an unknown phone call from an unknown number in New Mexico and goes, oh, what the heck, and picks it up, which is his custom. And it turns out that this young man has an incredible story, that he really needed somebody that could be a mentor to him, that could help him. And I'm convinced that we are going to end up being partners with this young man as a result of just being open. And I think that that kind of openness is part of what I think you were getting at, Scott, is that making time in your life to prioritize connecting with people, even when you don't know what the agenda is, or you don't have an agenda, or you don't know what the outcome is, but just leaving some room in your life for some of that spontaneity or some of that serendipity to show up through human beings. I just cannot believe how, like, that kind of story that I just shared happens all the time. And it happens not just with strangers, that's kind of a weird one, but it happens all the time where, I'll reach back out to an old friend and they'll say, I can't believe you just called me. I was just thinking about you. I was actually meaning to call you, and this is going on in my life and I wanted to talk to you about it. And there's an opportunity for us to do business together. There's an opportunity for me to help that person, or there's somebody that they think I should meet, or whatever it is. And they would not have called me if I had not picked up the phone and called them. And yet, as a result of just taking that little bit of time, all of this new opportunity opens itself up. And I truly believe that's available to every one of us. And it's a matter of just realizing that there's this huge untapped potential out there.
So why do you feel that so many people want to take the easy road? Why do you feel that people don't want to get on the phone like you and I want to really establish that connection? Because you see a lot of influencers out there, putting these thoughts and things in people's heads that you don't need to get on the phone. You got a great landing page. You got a great Facebook ad. The money's going to show up in the bank account. And I can't tell you, Adrian, how many people I've spoken to, and they haven't made $1 or a dime, for that matter, off of a Facebook ad that has great copy and a great picture and a great video. So why are people so resistant to actually getting on the phone with people nowadays?
Yeah. So two things. One is I think that they've been sold a false bill of goods by a lot of people out there that are making a lot of money and giving some people results. Like the right person with a great funnel page or whatever, they're going to do fine. But the average person who doesn't have any influence, or doesn't have a lot of influence, and doesn't have a lot of inbound, like, the purpose of a funnel is to reduce the flow to only show you the most qualified people. Well, if you don't have too much flow in the first place, if you don't have any flow in the first place, then that's not really your problem, right? Like, what you need is to have more conversations. And so I think that we get a little bit confused, where I think we get obsessed with the tool instead of getting curious and interested in the process of how to create success. And I think there's just not as many people out there trying to make a buck off convincing people that they're going to get rich by just doing the old-fashioned way of picking up the phone and speaking to people. And so people get distracted and they get over-programmed with busyness in their life, and it just feels like that connection is the easiest thing to let go of, and so many of us do.
So what's your best piece of advice to someone that is confused about this whole notion, because they're upline, the leaders, they're just telling them to just post on Facebook, just post and pray, scroll and troll, like and comment, and people will show up. What's your best piece of advice to that person that is not seeing anything, and the benefit that not just contact mapping could have for them, because we're going to get into that, but how beneficial is it to really seek out human connection with other people?
It's just, you can't put a value on it. I mean, I don't even, I can't even begin to describe the value that is sitting right there available to you. And here's the thing, no matter how few people you think you know, or how much you feel like you've burned your warm market of friends and families because you've talked to them about other entrepreneurial opportunities in the past, or whatever story you have about that, what I can truly see over and over again, because we've helped so many people to do this, is that if you can really learn to just set your agenda aside long enough to truly show up to find a way to serve in others' lives, that the opportunities that you will find for mutually beneficial partnering in business and in life are right there for the taking. And it's just a matter of learning a couple of skills and a couple of shifts in your mindset about how to do that. And you're going to be off to the races. And you can do that. You can post on Facebook too. You can post on LinkedIn too. And some people are going to respond, but your job is not, that's not the work. That's just the bait. The work and the joy is the conversation that you generate with that person from there. And that conversation is a human to human conversation, not a sales pitch. And I think that's the other place that so many of us get stuck, is we go straight to the pitch and you've lost them and you didn't need to do that.
So let's get into contact mapping, because I think this is a new concept. It's something that a lot of people haven't heard of yet. I mean, I know we're in 2020 and people are very motivated. They're driven right now. They have big goals. They have big dreams and aspirations. Let's talk about contact mapping and explain, the greatest businesses. And I think this is something that you and I really connected on. The greatest businesses are created from actually bringing something to the marketplace that solves the problems that a great deal of people have. So let's talk about conceptually what contact mapping is and how could it benefit someone's business.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's three pitfalls that so many of us face, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're in any other kind of business, that we need to be, that we could be so much more effective and so much more influential if we were just to pay attention to these things. So the first one is that you don't really do, the average person does not really do a good job of asking good questions that are not just small talk kind of questions of their prospects, of their friends, of their family, of their clients. They don't ask the right questions. And even worse, they're so busy trying to make themselves look good that they don't listen to the answers. And so one of the things that contact mapping will help you to do and will train you to do as part of the system is to learn how to ask better questions and to get you into this habit of writing down the most important things that people share with you, or dictating into your app the most important things that people share with you, so that you actually remember them, because that stuff is a gold. And it's gold, not just like in the sense of that it could benefit you in your business, but it's gold relationally as well. So not paying close enough attention and not asking the right questions is one part. The second part is like, oh man, we could all be doing so much better in our business if we could just fix this one thing, which is that we all suck at follow-up. And we suck at follow-up for a whole host of reasons. I think part of it's we're afraid of being perceived as salesy or pushy. I think part of it is that we say no on behalf of our prospects before actually asking them for the answer, which is crazy. And the third thing is that we lose so much stuff through our fingers. And so again, we are endeavoring to make it as simple and easy as possible for people to solve that problem, and for you to be extremely effective and extremely on top of your relationships and your prospects, so that you always know when it's time to follow up and who you need to follow up with. And then the last thing is that we don't visualize our network as powerfully as we could. So we don't have our contacts mapped out in a way that allows us to get the most from them. And so as I have embarked on this, and as we've taught other people to embark on it, all the time now, people will call me saying, do you have a recommendation for X that has little or nothing to do with my business, but people just know that I am the most networked person in our community because I'm the kind of person that pays attention to this. And I can search anything. I can find out who I know that has done that, that does that for their living, whatever it is. And I can put contacts together in a way that benefits them all the time. Even if it doesn't explicitly benefit me in the moment, it does in the long haul. Number one, because I feel great every time that I'm able to serve in that way. And number two, because you better believe that I've earned goodwill with both of those people when I make a mutually beneficial connection. And so those three activities are things that I think the average business person and business owner struggles with and doesn't do the way that they know they should, even though they intend to, and that we have set out to make it as easy and simple as possible.
So walk me through, for the network marketer, that because most of my audience is network marketers across 70 countries.
Yep.
Speak to that network marketer that knows nothing about contact mapping, where their business is now, and how beneficial what you and your father are offering people like network marketers, and where could it take their business?
Yeah, awesome. So here's what you can think about. So every time that you are having a conversation with anybody in relation to your business, whether it's online, whether it's offline, what I want to do is to shift you to ask a certain kind of question and a certain set of questions of that person that's really about discovering two big things. Number one, what are this person's values? What are the things that are going to motivate this person to take action? And then number two is, where is the pain in their life? And so what you're really trying to do is understand truly in an empathetic way, what is this person after in their life, and and then I can figure out if I can help them to get there. But I'm starting from the place of how can I help and how can I understand who you are and what you need. And so from there, I had the conversation, I pull out my contact mapping app, we'll share something in a minute where you can actually see what this looks like in action. It's a quick little video. So we'll talk about how to see that in a minute here. But I'm going to speak into my notes in like under 30 seconds, and I'm going to remember the things about Scott from our conversation that are going to position me to be able to follow up powerfully with him. And so that's piece number two, is to be able to develop that conversation powerfully. And then number three is that I set myself this reminder to follow up, and I call Scott up a few days later and I say, hey Scott, how was your trip to Denver? I noticed that you did this or whatever, but like I'm able to follow up specifically and powerfully, and I'm able to tie my recollection of what he shared with me to his values, to his pain, in a way that speaks it right into their language. And what you don't realize you are doing in network marketing, but I can pretty much guarantee you are, is that you are sharing and talking about your product, your service, or your business opportunity in a way that is the way that excites you about that business, but you're not thinking enough about what is going to be the most attractive aspect to that person. And so this process will give you that roadmap to go, this person, what is driving that person, what's driving Joanna crazy is that she has to commute 45 minutes every day in rush hour. And by the time she gets home, she only has 20 minutes left with her daughter before putting her in bed, and she's too tired to really want to play with her anyway. And it's killing her. And so that's where I need to speak into, is how could I help her to get past that pain in her life? And everybody's got a story like that. And all it takes is learning how to ask the right questions to pull that story out of them.
Amazing. So as we wind down, there's two obviously final things that I want to go over. Number one, how can people find out more about contact mapping and obviously the benefits that it can have on their business? That's my first question.
Yeah. So Scott and I have been getting to know each other, and I think we are extremely aligned in the way we think about the world, and so much so that Scott and I are actually working together on this project a little bit. And so where I want you to go is to contactmapping.com/Scott. And what you'll get is a little message where Scott will talk about what why this is so powerful from his perspective. But that just down below that is what I was talking about. There's a little video that you can see there as well that is going to show you in 4 minutes exactly what I'm talking about, in terms where you're going to immediately go, oh, okay, I see exactly how this can serve me, not even just in my business, but across my whole life. And so that's what I'd encourage you to do, is go check out contactmapping.com/Scott. You can watch the little video from Scott and then watch this 4-minute video, and you're going to understand extremely well what I'm talking about.
And then final question, and there is no wrong answer because it's whatever it means to you. And for the listeners, the website that Adrian just said is going to be available in the show notes, so you can go and check it out. And I highly, highly encourage you to do so. So final question, Adrian, what does success mean to you?
Oh man, that's a loaded one again. So
I'm
I
full
think
of loaded questions.
That's good. I don't mind that. So it means two things for me. Number one, it means impact. So contact mapping is primarily about creating this shift in the world that has people prioritize other human beings as not only the means to better those other people, but to better themselves. Because I think that is truly the way that we can create net positive win-win situations all across the world. And so the more people we can touch with that message, and the more people we can equip to start doing that, I think the better place the world will be. So that's number one. And then number two, I think on a personal level, is I want to do this in a way that is consistent with my values, which are to serve others, to be able to spend time with my family, and to live the values of contact mapping in my own life. Because when I get too busy and I find myself not paying enough attention to my human relationships, I get less happy, I get less satisfied in my life. And when I focus on that, I get more of everything. I get more happiness, opportunities unlock themselves that I didn't even realize were there. And it's just a constant reminder for me. And so success is really living those values in my own life as well.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much again, brother, for just being just the amazing human being you are, and taking the time to pour into my audience. And I highly suggest you guys go to www.contactmapping.com/Scott. You can learn more about this amazing, amazing tool for your business that really, in the long term, it's gonna act just like a 401k again. It's gonna build that compounded interest over time, and it's something you all deserve to learn about. So Adrian, thank you so much again for being here today.
My pleasure, Scott. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please enjoy the rest of your day, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you again so much for checking out this week's episode. And if you can, head over to iTunes, search for Network Marketing Made Simple, leave me a 5-star rating, basic review. I would be grateful for all of the support you guys can give me. And again, if you'd be interested in learning more how to utilize LinkedIn to grow your business, your brand, and your bank account, head over to my website, www.scottaaron.net. Fill out the form for your free 15-minute discovery call so I can learn more about you, your business, and how we can work together. And again, thank you guys so much. Grateful for you all, and I'll see you next time.